It's time for a cursed build of sorts. A weird build, a build you probably shouldn't even run, but we tested it anyways. What is that build? That is Divine Dragon IKE. So what does this do? Why would you do this? There's no 1 to 2 range physical sword you can reasonably double with on this build, aside from Ragnall, which is quite heavy. So what else can this do? Dragon type gets minus 10% extra damage. Fantastic. So instead of 50%, you get 60% damage off. And Great Aether gives you +1 damage per hit taken. And it's also Sword Axe, so we can use the Silver Blade. In this case, I have a Silver Blade +3 with an IKE engraving. And the sole purpose of this weapon is Great Aether. Its damage is higher than Hammer and Irvin and Ragnall, so it is good enough to justify using this. But the main combo, the main thing we're going for is the extra damage reduction. Now, this Alear, this is on fixed growth. I only play on fixed growth. This Alear has not had Draco Shields nor Talismans, but if I did Draco Shield and Talisman Alear, he would be much tankier here. Now, the build currently is speed +5 and base gentility, but eventually this will run gentility plus once I get more bond fragments, because getting to high bond levels does, cost a lot of bond fragments. So that'll probably be in a few more chapters. You do have Resolve Plus. So the whole idea was the 60%, and it's a doubling build. You go for doubling. The speed is good enough that you double most things. Your weapons are weightless outside of the Silver Blade, and you just go for tanking. Now, how good is this build actually? Let's test it against these Wyverns. I just completed chapter 19, unlocking Roy's Paralog. We're on chapter 20. So these enemies are competitive with my units. So let's do 2 tests here. The first test will just be sending in this Alear with Volkanger 5 and just sitting here, and I'll show you. So I know what you're thinking, 26 defense, you're gonna die, but you're not taking into account the 60% damage reduction, and it actually is quite wild. These enemies have 46 might, and they deal 6 damage. And we practically one-round them in response. Now, he almost one-rounds them. He doesn't quite one-round them. If I equipped Wormslayer, I could, or if I randomly crit. I also build up Wrath crits so that as I'm enemy phasing, my crit rate increases as Wrath increases as well. So now we're actually critting. So it's not a bad build, honestly. It's able to put in work. We're semi-reliant on crits depending on the enemy, but generally it's not very like a crit-reliant build. It's decent. It's not terrible. I would say it's like low A tier. At first, it was, honestly, the whole time, it was kind of decent the whole playthrough. It never was really bad. It can't 2-range very well. It can 2-range, though. Like, if you dance or speed tonic and use Ragnall, you'll double, like, most archers and mages in response and kill them off of might. You can also go for low percent crits to one-shot them with a single hit. But here's the results of, no Draco Shields, no Talismans, just sticking Alear on IKE with speed +5 and gentility, which is 4k total SP. So that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And we killed 2, almost killed 2 more, and then the 5th one wasn't able to hit, but it wouldn't have had a good combat anyways, because, we take 6 damage from them. So that's not bad. That is a decent result. Let's go back. Let's try Great Aether now. Alright, so let's go here. Let's Great Aether. The Great Aether is going to be a little worse, I would say. Yeah, we'll do the Great Aether just for fun. Now, you do get defense and res +5, so we're going to take even less damage. We do get doubled now. Now, every time you get hit, you get +1 damage on your Great Aether. So getting doubled actually kind of helps this build, because now we're +4 damage on the Great Aether. And now that Resolve has triggered, now we're +6 damage on the Great Aether. +8 damage on the Great Aether. You cannot trigger Wrath on Great Aether though either, so that's something to consider. Alright, so we're gonna hit 4. Let's see if we one-shot them. Ideally we do.
Is that the sound they might be?
Alright, let's see what we get. Alright, does not kill. It almost kills though. It's not terrible. It's like a respectable Great Aether. It's not as good as just enemy phasing there, but if you're getting hit at 2 range, this is a way to deal damage at 2 range, because you counterattack, or I'm sorry, you Great Aether at 2 range, And you would kill those things. Like if you're getting hit by mages and archers and all of these things attacked you, you're tanking it, you have resolve, you have gentility, you would kill those with a great aether. These ones maybe not, but the other things definitely would. The lower HP, we did 44 against 22 defense. Against 19 defense with 37 HP, we would kill all these mages if these were all attacking at 2 range. So it's not terrible. Okay, so let's go over the logic behind the build, why I even bothered to do this, like what the idea was. So you have to know how Lagu's friend works. Like first you have to understand basic damage calculation, right? Which most people do, right? Defense, attack, you know, incoming physical attack minus defense is your final damage. Then, so like let's say you have a 60 damage attack, so an enemy has 60 physical attack and they're attacking you and you have 30 defense. You now take 30 damage because of your 30 defense. Great. With Lagu's friend, if you have that, it goes down to 15. Fantastic. So 15 damage. So now we've essentially quartered damage by using defense and Lagu's friend. Now let's add in gentility. Let's say we have gentility plus. Now we go from 15 damage down to 10. As far as I can tell, gentility calculates last. So first it does your defense and res, then it does the damage reduction from Lagu's friend, and then it does the gentility. Now that is useful because if you have something and then take off from the top, sometimes I think situationally it reduces it more. I could be wrong on that. It could be the case that it's like similar, but if you're getting hit for like 7 to 10 damage, taking 5 off of that is substantial. So no matter what, the minus 5 damage is going to be substantial. All right, so now what does the extra 10% get you? The example of the 30 damage, an extra 10% would be an extra 3 damage off of the 30. So instead of going from 30 to 15, you'd go from 30 to 12. So it is substantial. Like it does matter for sure, that extra 10%. So it does make you a lot tankier than you should be just off of raw mitigation. Now obviously the higher your defense and res, the lower the base value is, and then once it's reduced by 60%, it gets even lower, and then once you reduce it with gentility, it gets even lower. And then of course if you trigger resolve, this is typically what will get Alear into like 30 something defense, 20 something res, which is decent. And you also get your wrath and so on. So this was the idea, that extra 10%, trying to leverage that extra 10%. Now how good is this compared to other IKE tanks? It is decent. I would say it's like an A tier build for Alear. Alear is a force deploy, so if you want to have Alear doing something, this isn't a bad thing to do. There are better units that can make better use of IKE that I would say are S tier builds on S tier units, but Alear lacks like 1 to 2 range option here outside of Ragnall, which isn't bad, but you have to dance and tonic to get the speed up on it because Ragnall is very heavy, and if you want to upgrade it, you're going to have to do the tower trials or whatever to get orbs, which I don't really enjoy doing. But if you enjoy doing those, you can get speed plus 2 on your Ragnall to reduce its speed reduction on you a little bit. But this is a good option to 1 to 2 range. You can also 1 to 2 range just by great aethering, and as we saw here, with this like a silver blade plus 1 to 3 IKE engraved, plus the 1 damage per hit, isn't terrible. It's not bad. You can kill like mages and archers, and you'll put all the other things low, but you probably won't kill them, as we've seen here. 22 defense is kind of average for endgame enemies, so you can expect things to just be stronger than that. Now, what else can this build do, really? One thing that's nice is this. Units engage meter is shortened 1 step, and you combine that with bond 20, which shortens it another step. And if you actually look at the IKE, you only need to get hit 5 times. So the way that building meter works is if I hit you and you hit me and I hit you, I build 3 meter. So if I'm enemy phasing, like even if I just get hit by like, if I like get hit, counterattack, and then counterattack, like that's like an enemy hitting me and then me doubling them, that's most of my meter back. So you can build it up pretty quickly. So like compare that to Bond 20 Chloe, who has 6 steps, you have 5. So one of the huge advantages here is you have fewer build up to IKE, so you get more great aethers relative to other units, just slightly more, really. You're fast enough to double most things. You're fast enough to not get doubled by most things. You're not going to double the super fast things, but you could always Great Aether, Silver Blade like enemy Sword Masters, enemy Heroes, enemy Wolf Knights, and probably kill them or put them low enough that anything else can one-shot them. You also have defense +5 on Ragnell, and funny enough, you have defense +5 on Shielding Art. So you can kind of make this like weird super tank thing that takes almost no damage, even though I only have 51 health. It almost doesn't even matter because the mitigation is just so extreme that it really just allows you to tank a lot of things. Now, there are better options for Ike. There's definitely better use cases, but this isn't bad. I would say it's like low A tier. It's decent, it's respectable. If you want to goof off with this, these are the weapons you want. You want a Silver Blade +1 to 3 with Ike. You want a Folkvanger with either Leaf or Marth Engraving, just for extra damage and slightly increased crits. You can run an Armor Slayer if you want. You always have a hammer too, so you don't necessarily need the Armor Slayer, but the Armor Slayer can double. This cannot follow up, so pretty big difference there. The Shielding Art +3 is a meme that I just ran because I was streaming and I thought it was funny, so I just did that as a bit. And then of course you can get Res Plus on Irvan and Defense Plus on Ragnall, so you can situationally use either of these for Great Aethers or just go for this. But this is the build. It's pretty fun. I kind of recommend it if you want to try out something different. It's surprisingly tanky, even though the defensive stats look like they're terrible. The 60% damage reduction is pretty insane, actually, so you'd be surprised how much it enables. But also, I recommend getting Gentility Plus early if you can. On this run, I ran too many units and ended up with, like, too much of a Bond Fragment problem, so I wasn't able to get Gentility Plus as fast as I'd like to. But yeah, that's it for Divine Dragon IKE TANK ALEAR. It's something I wanted to try for a while, but I haven't gotten around to it. The extra 10% and then the +1 damage is neat. Now, other things, they just Great Aether with Silver Great Axe, which is just bigger damage. So this almost doesn't even matter. And also, most other things also just have more defense and res. So it kind of like cancels out. And they also have 1 and 2 range options like Javelin and Hand Axe. So it's just not as good as those. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.